Hey, what's up everyone? So coming back with the 107th opening that I'd like to share with you, which is the pyramid or checkerboarding peasant opening. So basically this opening stems from the snake opening against the white diagonal. Typically you use this as black. So starting off with f5, you get the typical kind of sequence into the snake opening with f7. So basically this opening is specifically for black users against white diagonal opening. So if your opponent goes for the typical e3 response, which is the book response, you go with d7, followed by white just following with book, and instead of going for the mamushi opening, you basically go to c6, cut across, fairly intuitive, and white kind of just curls back based on the book. And over here, the sequence is for black to go into d3, which forms the pyramid or checkerboarding peasant opening. So the interesting thing about this shape, why is it checkerboard? So again, just a quick review or recap is that the definition of a checkerboarding situation is over here, whereby black in this shape has interestingly controlled this mini diagonal between d5 and f7 disk. This does not allow white to kind of quickly regroup its disk or centralize, and at the same time black is also controlling this mini horizontal row, which is d4 to e4 disk, and again white doesn't have any option to kind of regroup its various disks spread across the board. And then you basically see that, with this split, black also controls this kind of mini horizontal row between c6 to g6. So there isn't a nice way to immediately kind of regroup the disk, but rather white has no choice but to either play g5 or the loud c7. So something interesting about this opening, apart from that it produces that checkerboard shape, is that basically it's fairly known against across various players. I think once they see the checkerboarding pattern, they kind of understand. So the typical follow up would then be c7 followed by black just jumping to the edge, just scraping one disc at a time, maybe approaching in. So over here, white would then kind of play towards this way because there is a lone disc over here, and at the same time, if you want to cut across the center, split up black's disc, typically you want to cut in this way, so you would have these three moves. It's fairly positive and acceptable moves. So the typical sequence that follows is maybe white here to g6, black goes in for the pocket, white goes in, and then over here the interesting thing is b5 over here, because b5 basically creates a poison situation for white, and white doesn't have like a nice cut back into the center over here to b6 because there is one poison disc to e3. So interestingly, white has to play either g5 or c4, such a move, and it still allows black to kind of either immediately centralize, create this excess, to jump in, but if white prevents it, you can also jump in again. So you can see this opening has a lot of opportunities to kind of crisscross against one another. Another option is for black to play b4, maybe to kind of attempt to come back, to cross back over here into the center. That's one option. So I think the game is fairly easy after this opening is played for maybe both players. So I would say it's a fairly low risk kind of opening for both players if you were to play this, and your opponent probably knows it pretty well. Then I would say this opening is kind of a fair fight, and at the same time it keeps the differences small. So if you're facing against an opponent that you think is stronger than you, it's probably quite a good opening to play. And interestingly, I found that the five-time world champion Mr. Yusuke Takanashi used to play the snake opening fairly often, at least back in the 2009 to 2010 days. So that's pretty interesting to note. And I see quite a few European players definitely know this, because I think diagonal opening itself is more widely played in Europe as compared to maybe Asia. So yeah, hopefully you like this opening, and thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.